Okay, I think we are live. Just let me launch all of our outlets so that everyone can see us and everyone can hear us. Hi, guys. As you can probably tell, for this one, we're switching to English because our speaker will be speaking English and talking to you guys about Tableau in just a few moments. Please let us know if everything's okay, if you guys can hear us and if you guys can see us. But I can already see some people joining us on our statistics, so that's great. Hi, guys. Welcome back after a short break. We're only getting more into Tableau right now in our S-Force Summit 2024 because, as you can tell from our screen, joining us right now is Luuk Martens. Okay, Jakub is saying everything's fine. Alexandra is giving a plus. I guess that means that everything's okay. Hi, guys. Great to have you. As you can see, we have our speaker with us, which we are very happy for, Luuk Martens. He has these great qualities that I think are very, very important in the Salesforce realm because he is known for blending a humanities background with a passion for emerging technologies like AI and LLM to offer strategic insights and competitive advantages to business. At NextView, he leverages Salesforce products to enhance customer engagement and operational efficiency. With experiences ranging from technology consultant to BI developer, Luuk has led diverse teams and projects focused on data, analytics, and CRM processes across sectors. He's known for his critical yet kind approach. He's driven by a curiosity to explore how technology can improve our lives and address societal challenges. That's very interesting. And as you can see from your screens, Tableau will be our topic during the next hour. How to use Tableau to improve your quarterly business reviews. That will start in just a moment. Just let me remind you guys that after each presentation, we have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions for our speaker, I will be more than pleased to ask them during our Q&A session. I will be joining our speaker at the end of an hour, and I will show our speaker your questions. Okay, Jana says hello. Dorota says hello. Great to have you guys here. Luuk, also great to have you here. I'll be joining you in a few moments. Have fun with our viewers. Hi.
Thank you very much. Wow, what an introduction! It's really a pleasure to speak here, and it's really a pleasure to talk a bit about what I think is some of the things that makes work most fun, and those are projects where you can make a big impact. And I think that's what we did here, and especially when it comes to using data analytics for that. Um, let's quickly start. I think my introduction was already quite advanced. I think the summary would be that I have a BI background and dove into the Salesforce ecosystem around 6 years ago and completely got certified in everything almost that Salesforce has, from marketing, sales, and service. And One thing that I sort of kept from that BI background was the ability to look at data from a slightly different point of view than purely from a business application point of view. And I think that really helped also in the customer case that I will be explaining next. But before I do that, I wanted to briefly explain a bit about NextView, who we are. So we are a Salesforce dedicated consulting company. We're focused on approaching these Salesforce implementations from a very design and a very people-centric approach. We Our business is mainly built on four strategic pillars. So on one side, we basically focus and specialize on everything that Salesforce does. So that also includes MuleSoft and Tableau. On the other side, we're very much focused to collaborating with our customers as a partner, so not just as a supplier, and bringing them value over with our experience and their experience together. We have a very strong focus on the design-led approach, as I said, and for us that means really not just starting solutioning immediately, but really first try to understand who are the stakeholders of your problem, what kind of requirements do they have, and how will that fit into a very user-friendly solution in the end by solving the root cause of the problem and not just the initial problem question. Furthermore, we are, of course, involved as a B Corp in all kinds of projects that are also non-profit, where one of the bigger ones I'd like to highlight is um, uh, the plastic whale, where we and the mass cleanup, where we actually focus a lot about taking plastics out of our nature and specifically out of our rivers. So I think that's a topic that we work with and that we also leverage our Salesforce and data skills for. So I understand that this is, of course, Salesforce Summit, and there's probably not a lot of Tableau presentations. So very briefly, what is Tableau? So Tableau was acquired around 6 years ago by Salesforce. It has the mission to help people see and understand data and to also act on that. And that means that it provides tooling, both tooling that you can, so software that you can download on your laptop, but also software that you can host yourself on a server, or you can just host it in the cloud. And that software basically helps you connect data, adjust data, so connect different data, do some calculations, visualize it. But the most important things are, of course, being able to explore it and relatively, as a user, um, uh, dig deep in the data to find the real insights and the real root causes of the things that you're trying to do. And it does it at a level that, of course, dashboards is something that everybody thinks about initially, but Tableau really does it to the level that you can create infographics um, like in the most detailed pixel perfect way. And it also allows these infographics to be published online in interactive web portals where users, readers, maybe your partners or customers can actually interact with the data visualizations that you've created. And of course, especially recently, but already for some time, it's focused a lot about helping people see and understand data. And that also means leveraging AI to help you close the gap. So being able to ask natural language questions, but also to automatically detect patterns that you don't have to dig through the data completely. So all of this is Tableau. It's a separate product from Salesforce, but they're highly focused on integrating it the past years. Well, um, my background, as I said, is BI, and what I saw in the business intelligence world is that it tends to very quickly focus on the data pipeline, as they call it, and that means that you're looking for the technologies on how to capture data, how to evaluate data quality, how to engineer the data or fix the data quality in a lot of cases, and then give them into visualizations to end users for analysis, insight delivery, and decisioning. And what we've noticed is that a lot of these projects don't reach the level of value, and not just because the technology side was completely wrong or something, but that they forgot to actually also focus on that right side of the screen, because not all end users are able and are skilled and to work with the solutions that were created. And that's why we actually look a lot at the right side of the things, because that's actually where the value is created. So the left side is really a cost component. So how much does it cost to build the solution? But to actually get the business case ready, I rather have an MVP solution that is adopted very well than a highly super advanced solution that nobody uses, right? So that's why the right side of things is really important. I'm going to talk about a case. So, as the title suggested, we're going to talk about QBRs. But first, I'm going to introduce a bit about the client. So, we work for a large international travel and leisure service marketplace where consumers, but also businesses, can book their hotels, but also activities or flights or all kinds of things. And the model is in a way, of course, that consumers can book these and that there's some level of margin made there. But they also have distributors models where actually they work together with these partners. So for them, a hotel is not just a supplier, or the hotel is not just a customer, but it's really a business partner. They work together with these hotels to help also optimize the business case for those hotels. They basically bring a lot of consumers to their hotels, and also help them with their online presence. And besides the hotels, there's also other kinds of partners. As you can imagine, there's a lot of travel agencies, but also all kinds of technology vendors that would like to use and leverage their platform. And those are partner distributors. Basically, they resell part of the services of this platform. Um, and to be actually to run that business model in a good way, you need to have very strong partner management. Um, and that means that you have to really guide every new partner and to continuously work together, collaborate, build relations, but also build performance and to plan and adjust accordingly. And that's where QBR comes in. So as you can imagine from the life cycle of adding a new business partner to your network, there's a part that is about onboarding the business partner. It's about a lot about explanation. It's a lot about giving them the tools. It's a lot about also getting their systems integrated. And once that's up to a level that a partner is onboarded, that's when you can start collaboratively planning for business. So what is the target group they're focusing on? Which channels are they going to leverage? What's their pricing strategy? But also what does good look like in their area of business? Maybe in one country it's different than the other country. Maybe if you focus on business travelers, it's different than focusing on consumer travelers. So that's where a lot of the collaborative planning happens. But a plan is nice, um, but the plan itself doesn't necessarily add a lot of value if you also don't start measuring and evaluating the plan. And that's where in the green block, where our emphasis of the project lays, that's when you review the progress against those plans, you review the performance, you look at the behavior in the market, and you share that among each other. And based on that, together again, you will adjust your planning and adjust accordingly to make next year or next quarter even better. So this is a very high level part, and it's uh, in a lot of these data analytics use cases, the devil is in the detail. So let's go a bit more detailed. So if you look at the review progress, there's really sort of three phases of the review. So of course there's the preparations for the meeting, there's the meeting itself, and of course after the meeting there's also some actions and planning to take place. Again, our focus was to create a QBR deck, so during the meeting. However, the deck itself is, of course, a result of your pre-meeting process. And that means that, especially the analysis that these account managers do in advance, they influence a lot the content of the QBR. And that's something that they saw was very dependent on which account manager had how much time and how much skill to actually build a good QBR meeting. Of course, a meeting like that really is some aspects are sort of standard, like the introduction and the agenda. There's some general company updates, but then you really move into the data by reviewing what's happening in the market, by reviewing the results, but also the performance of different customer segments. And then, of course, after you, or actually while you discuss these topics, the account managers also want to provide their qualitative insights. So they want to discuss certain obstacles, they want to discuss where potential opportunities lie, but also where maybe things go wrong and you want to get fixed. And then these meetings sort of end with a part where you look ahead and you again adjust your plan and reassess what's happening and basically prepare for the next quarter. So a lot of these topics are very generic. It's not directly linked to this customer case. I think in a lot of different business departments, a similar process happens. You can imagine if you're an HR department, you also have HR partners. You run through these same things. If you're in the sales side, you look at sales distribution channels, maybe resellers. This is sort of also applies there. And this is where Salesforce and Tableau can really add value to these businesses. In this case, our client runs a lot of these processes in Salesforce, where they have a partner 360. So this is where they do their account management. That's where they capture the communications with these partners. But they didn't feed any performance data yet into Salesforce. And as most of you know, with a Salesforce background, you also don't want to send too much data purely for just reporting purposes to your Salesforce. That's where you want to be efficient and avoid data duplication and avoid all kinds of mismatches that can come from or hitting limits when it comes to Salesforce. So in our specific client example, they really were focusing on the performance of sales distributors. So basically, when a consumer or a business tries to book something through this reseller actually in the background offers the platform of our client. And this is where they saw a lot of differences. Some of these partners were really good focusing on a specific market segment, but maybe less on others. Some of these customer behaviors were actually changing. And as the data in the end is captured in the data platform of our client, they were able to also um, share these insights with customers, for instance, or with these partner distributors. For instance, if people would suddenly go to different destinations, or maybe they see an uptick in hotels versus bed and breakfast, right? So also the type of holidays, the type of leisure activities is constantly changing, and sharing these insights with your partners is very valuable. And of course, a lot of these partners actually work on a commission or an affiliate basis. So they actually get part of the, like a margin, part of a percentage of the booking when the booking is successful and people stayed there, etc. They also look at things like, did the actual booker show up at the hotel? Because you don't want to give commission for canceled visits. So you can imagine there's a whole performance structure behind this that we help them with. They were already a Tableau user, so some of these account managers on their own were already creating Tableau dashboards, whether it was for preparation or to use actually in the meeting. But this is something they really wanted to streamline. And they wanted to streamline this because what they saw was that actually they had a template already, but that only 22-23% of the account managers were sort of happy with the current situation. The preparation of a QBR, it differs a lot in duration. You can imagine that if you work with a very highly structured situation or with a very small client, a QBR is relatively quickly prepared. But if you really need to work with a global enterprise on the level of the largest technology companies of the world, you can imagine it takes some time to really prep that QBR well. But what they saw during that preparation time was that over 10 hours of those QBR preparation hours, and in some cases even 40 hours, the account manager was actually copy pasting from Tableau, taking a screenshot, putting it in Google Meet, finding out that the data wasn't exactly correct, going back again, needing to tweak the font, the size, the color, etc. So they were doing a lot of formatting and a lot of topics where you can imagine that it might not be the best spent time for those account managers. And you can imagine that there's a huge difference in skill set on how to storytell, how to create these Tableau visualizations, and that in some cases it took them a long time, especially if you only do it once a quarter, or of course they don't tend to have one account, but maybe up to 10 accounts. So you don't do it that often that you get really good skill at it. Furthermore, they saw that there was actually quite a lot of mistakes being made. So sometimes an additional filter was put on and they forgot to turn it off. In some cases, they actually brought data in there that was confidential, so that wasn't supposed to be shared with that partner. For instance, data about other partners and sometimes even their competitors. So that's something that they really want to prevent, and they currently prevented it by doing a lot of review sessions. Um, and the result was that they spent so much time on preparing these QBRs that out of the 1,000 partners that they had, they could only do a few partners a year. Um, and then you can imagine that if you don't spend time collaborating with those partners, it's difficult to let them grow, because if they don't have the insights that you have, if they don't spend time on this, if it's sort of neglected, they are also losing a lot of potential value and losing a lot of opportunities. And that's where we wanted to move a lot of the, let's say, automatable or regular or formatting kind of tasks. And we wanted to give them the time back so they can actually spend time on planning and strategizing and doing the qualitative analysis and doing the exploratory data analysis, rather than being busy creating a presentation. So our solution was sort of two-sided. So the left part, so the business consulting, we use Miro and we use a lot of data visualization tooling. That's really in the project itself. So those were the tools that supported our project. The solution for the end users relied on a Hadoop data sets with a Tableau server on top, and in the end, a connection to Google Slides. We actually took the approach to really focus on the account managers and the process and really understanding that well, really finding out what were the best practices. So I think we had over 20, 30 different account managers either interviewed or in our workshops, to really find out how does it work, who's doing what. We reviewed a higher number than 20 of existing QBR decks that were already given in the past, to really also try to benefit from everything that they already had as their best practices, and we combined that all together into one presentation deck that every account manager can use and reuse for their partner. The team was relatively small. So we had a UI UX designer, so really focusing on the look and feel, on how the usability is, how the process looks like. And we had a Tableau developer focusing on building the actual Tableau solution. Furthermore, on the client side, we of course had a product owner, so that was one of the more senior account managers who really made this project his own, and was really motivated also to make this a success. And of course, on the Hadoop side, this was something that the platform of their own platform team already had. So they also had someone in our team. And of course, the biggest number of people were actually the people around the team. And that was the key users, the subject matter experts, the analysts that we involved, that we really tried to get involved a lot in different workshops and different meetings. And also in between, we gave them a lot of homework and a lot of surveys and questions to help us build the right solution. So you already heard a bit about how we approached it, but let me sort of phase it down a bit. Roughly, we consider always 4 phases in a project. The first phase for us is really about creating the context. It's about onboarding the team. It's about really understanding the client. It's really understanding the business context of what we're trying to do. And we tend to end that with a first design of how it could look like, and ideally a validated design already by key users. The second step, the second phase, is where we create and validate the work. And we say create and validate because it's actually very iterative. We build small solutions, check it, rebuild it, check it, rebuild it, until we have, let's say, a library of design elements that we can use to build the full solution. Then there's, of course, a part of training, a go live, and adoption. or adoption preparation, and in the end with accelerate, this is when we keep collecting feedback and keep fixing issues and ensure that from there onwards they can move and scale up. Yeah, as I said, so the first part is it's a really a business consultancy phase because there's no technology there yet. It's really focused on the process, about the different steps, about what kind of information is there. We looked at all kinds of QBR decks that existed either within that partner or from our best practices. We also showed a bit of inspiration on what could be done or where we think that it could go to, and we made all kinds of different schematics. I see that my microphone is. Let's see if it works better than that. I tend to move a lot, so let's see this better. So we make also these creating the context phase for thinking already in solution components as well. And this is where different aspects are compared against each other and where you want to look at the technology decisions that are hard to change later on. So these are really the bigger components of a we call project start architecture. And all of this together results in a very people focused, a very business context, but also from a technology, a pre-selection on what will be possible. The second phase is about create and validate. And this is again, part of this happened in Miro, part of this happened in Tableau itself, where we basically um, looked at the full agenda of a QBR. And step by step, we went through the slides and created examples of them. But also, when the first time we encountered a new topic or a new visualization, we would try to create a design element library. And that means that you want consistency across your different dashboards or across your different presentation sheets later on, slides later on. And that means that you want to reuse as much as possible. So we spent a lot of time in the beginning already to create the design library. So the first couple of slides that we created for them from Tableau were actually, they took quite some time. But that means that if you once you have that design library in a good format, you can quickly speed up afterwards because you don't have to look at specific details anymore. You can just reuse your design library and don't design everything from scratch for every different slide. Of course, this is a travel agency or a travel platform, so you can imagine that especially maps and charts around locations and around where to move from where was a big part of what we looked at. So around to make it happen was also, of course, to make sure that it was usable by like it was simple to use also for different account managers. So we actually, rather than just focusing on the slides that were in the QBR, we also looked at seeing this Tableau workbook, so all of these different sheets into one workbook, as a solution on its own. And that means that we had a welcome page, we had a configure page. So basically, the account managers could just land on the clean welcome page. They could move to the settings page, and then in the settings page, they had some parameters that they could still choose from. So, of course, they had to select which specific partner they were looking for, but we could also added a couple of parameters, for instance, around do you want to do a monthly comparison or a quarterly comparison? Do you want to see in all the top X number of destinations? Do you want to see the top 5 or the top 10 or the top 20? And based on those presentation parameters, the slides later on were actually changed accordingly. So it was relatively dynamic to give at least some form of freedom because not every partner is the same. Not every of their sales partners work on an affiliate basis. So you don't have to show the affiliate potential everywhere, right? So based on these aspects, the rest of the solution basically changed. And then, of course, they were able to export these into a Google Slides presentation, just one-on-one, and then add their own qualitative information alongside. I think in this part, And in a lot of, also in the Salesforce world, of course, acceptance testing is super important. Right? Preparing that very well, making it easy to use, thinking about the scenarios beforehand, making sure these scenarios are not just happy flow, but also unhappy flow, like what happens if certain data is missing. So that's really important. The second part is training, and that's really an individual almost level, because not every account manager has the same digital literacy, not every account manager has the same data literacy. So you really have to pay attention on who to do what. You can't just put one session and then everybody's trained and then you're done. Now, actually, training will actually continue after the go live, because there is a learning curve once you go live. And of course, the go live itself, we had to make sure that we turned on the switch at the right moment to not um, let users see all kinds of different topics, but really to see the real end solution and to get Hadoop scheduled in the right way. Yeah, and then afterwards, of course, we did several check-ins with the teams. We fixed a couple of topics that came up that were sort of easy to fix, but had a great gain in adoption. Um, uh, in the end, after what is now 4 months that we have this live, we saw that roughly 10 hours of formatting narrowed down to around 2 hours for a deck. And we see mixed results when it comes to the users, how they spend it. So some users really spend it on those extra 8 hours that they have, and spend it on 8 hours of additional deeper data exploration, also based on our deck. We see others that are able to actually just do more QBRs and reach more partners and work from there. And I think that's especially the last one was really a big goal to do that. If you look at what worked and what we learned from it, is that the data storytelling and the QBR story and the setting the agenda, there were a lot of different opinions, and we saw during the process it also challenged a couple of times. And we would really say that a key takeaway in this case would be to really set up a clear structure in advance, so that you can limit the number of discussions that come after. Of course, you work in an agile way, so it's also fine that some things change along the way, but it's nice to sort of keep that limited. What worked really well for us was the uh, design in low detail. So especially the physical workshops that we had on whiteboards and drawing it, that went really fast from almost no idea to almost a full idea. And we noticed that especially the key users who were more business focused and less IT knowledgeable, that they were really benefiting from seeing the different design elements. So rather than asking them, would you like to see a bar chart, or would you like to see a line graph, we would actually show them different bar charts, different line charts, and basically ask, hey, can you pick the one from these 9? And then even then they could say, well, I want to see that part from image 1 and that part from image 7. And then our designer could continue and sort of merge those ideas. So doing that in a very low prototyping way, just with conceptual blocks or just with a simple fake data, that really, really worked. And that also links to, of course, being in touch with users a lot. And in the end, what I think was really nice, in particular for this client, was that they really had a dedicated product owner who had the mandate to make decisions and who had a very strong relationship and knew exactly which key users and which end users were highly influential. So being able to sort of build that community and have the client themselves take ownership rather than relying on us as a third party to try to inspire them only. It was really a collaborative effort on activating the different users in their teams. So I'm almost at the end of what I wanted to say. We are also here in a virtual booth. So as NextView, we're of course one of the sponsors, and we are always looking for talent to join us, whether it's for Salesforce, for MuleSoft, or for Tableau and Serum Analytics, and Einstein, of course, as well. Please reach out to Philip and Jarek. Even if you're not interested, it's probably a very interesting conversation because these guys are really funny and really awesome team, knowing a lot about the Salesforce ecosystem in Europe. So yeah, reach out to them for if you're interested in potentially joining NextView. And then, Dominica, I think we have, Dorota, I think we have a Q&A session. I don't know if there are a lot of questions that came in.
Yes, we do have some questions. So maybe let me start from the last one actually, because I can see it and I don't want to miss it. It's from a person also named Dorota. Dorota is asking, is there any kind of AI included?
In this project, there was no AI included. Of course, it depends a bit on your definition of AI because we're seeing a lot of technology vendors claiming AI, and if you look at the back end, it's basically just rule based. In this case, everything that we built was rule based. Um, of course, the way they capture different patterns in the back end of the platform sometimes has a level of machine learning to it, but we only consumed the end state and also only designed the end state. What we did look at in the beginning of the project was um, the explain data aspect of Tableau, where actually there's an additional button, and if you click it, it automatically analyzes the data set. But that would require a lot of backend work on the Tableau server side that Booking didn't have ready. So that's why we did not include that in this project.
Great. Guys, if you have any questions, we still have some time, so please write them down in the comments and let me see. I think this was the next one. How did Tableau streamline the preparation of QBR content and ensure consistency in aesthetics and narratives across different teams?
Yeah, so the Tableau, so when we create the application, right, the moment you filled in, so we structured, for instance, the things that you could fill in as an account manager. So there was no freedom to create your own complete dashboards anymore. Rather than that, we created for every potential slide of the global template for from their corporate governance. For every slide, we created that slide in Tableau, and there we set the boundaries, the graphs, the right colors, the right fonts, the right storylines, so already in the right order. And of course, there's always a human touch at the end, right? Similar to AI, you always want to have a human in the loop, and in this case as well, it's up to the account manager to determine what they want to talk about with their partner. And that does give them a bit of freedom to make their own story. But it was basically if you pressed OK, it automatically created the whole presentation for you. I think the narratives, that was the most difficult thing to do because you can imagine that if you work together with a airline or you work together with a affiliate network, or if you work with a technology partner, there are slightly different KPIs that matter. And that's where we basically we generated all the slides and we let the account manager sort of select the slides afterwards that they wanted to use. And on the data consistency, that's where we really, and especially the security, that's where we spent a lot of time on also shielding the data that they were not supposed to share. So despite that in the backend, the data might be there, the data in the dashboards were never anything that they could trace back to other partners or confidential information.
Mm-hmm. We also have a question about tips and tricks. Hi, can you provide examples of any additional functionalities or advanced techniques within Tableau that were particularly useful for the client's QBR enhancement?
Well, maybe one. Well, actually, there's a lot, but where to start? Well, maybe one that actually we didn't implement, but that was that I really, really loved, and that's also on the roadmap. Is that so? The Tableau world works quite similar to Salesforce with also their own app exchange, and it's not called an app exchange, but there's a lot of plugins and there's a lot of community created content. And one of those apps, Tableau apps, actually allows you to, from one workbook, to generate a lot of versions of that same workbook in a PDF format. So basically, mass creating all the potential QBRs for every partner that they would have. And for now, that was still too large to implement, but we are looking at the roadmap to do that, because that would actually automate even more part of the QBR, and also allow those QBRs to be shared with partners, maybe even without account managers being fully in control. And I think um, now every QBR becomes a PowerPoint presentation or a Google Slides presentation. So you can imagine that they have like a drive for all of these accounts, for all of these presentations, and then not just for one quarter, but for the past 5 years, all the quarters. So you can imagine it's like 20 QBRs for the past 5 years for every partner, and sometimes per region as well, right? That Europe has a different region than the US. So managing all these documents, because that is it, and making the link between your Tableau and your document management. Yeah, there's a couple of really cool apps for that on the App Exchange that I really loved. I think where we needed to pull some strings, it's really on the topics where we also had the more technology discussion on: are you going to calculate this metric in the Tableau workbook itself, or will Hadoop actually calculate the metric and give Tableau the outcome? And this is because sometimes the user want to have certain flexibility. We couldn't just take the Hadoop number, because that also removes a bit of flexibility. So sometimes we had to do something in Tableau to calculate the metric, and sometimes in Hadoop. And making that switch from a dynamic perspective on the front end, yeah, that needed to pull some strings in the back end on being able to do that.
And another question from Dorota about the biggest advantage building this app.
So I think the biggest benefit was really in the hours saved, and I think the look and feel as well. So we really upgraded the look and feel of their QBR. Some were really almost yeah uh, there was like different marketing versions and different slides and different sort of, almost every year they have like had like different aspects, and everybody liked their own slides. So being able to be consistent in that is really helpful, also because internally there, these account teams switch now and then, and by standardizing this, it also really helps their own department to work from that. From a more technology point of view, I think the biggest advantage was that we didn't store this data in Salesforce. Of course, a lot of the data that we used, especially the customer master data, originated from Salesforce. And we inherited also the Salesforce IDs so that we could embed this in a Salesforce environment. For now, we didn't do that yet, because the QBR at this point is really a process outside of Salesforce. But you can imagine that ideally you want to have these PDFs and these slides linking back to the actual partner, and also being able to see these dashboards for those partners in Salesforce. So building it from, yeah, because the main business works in Salesforce, and doing it with a Salesforce product like Tableau also sets them up for future more embedding and integration. I think you're still on mute.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there we have it. It's the second presentation. I already have this problem. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at the comments section, and I can see that this was actually the last question that we have on the list. I don't see any new questions. So I guess that's it. Thank you so much for your questions. And also, Luuk, thank you so much for answering them. Thank you so much for your presentation, for giving us all the details that we needed. Thank you once again so much. And as Luuk said, please be sure to join Craftware on our online booth that will give you some more details about our sponsor and their job application, their job openings. Thank you so much. Thanks, Luuk. Everyone is saying it's a great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great seeing you, great meeting you. Thank you once again. Great presentation from Gert also. Thank you, Luuk, once again for joining us. And guys, we will be meeting you very shortly now. Please use the break that we have for you to contact our partner, to contact our sponsor and check out their job options, the way things work at their place. Thank you so much once again, and we'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.